It is the 16th day of June 2023, a day that we at TV47 would like to say Asante Sana for making us your #1 station and for choosing a gold award in the commercial FTA TV category at the Kuza Awards. Asante Sana. But first, to the highlights. Tonight, 28 ODM MPs summoned over claims of defying party position on the Finance Bill 2023.
There was misrepresentation of facts on the manner in which the voting was to be conducted.
This as ODM Chair John Mbadi threatens to block the bill in court. Also tonight, we will only account for 2023-2024 budget. DP Gashagu says KK administration will not take blame for the past regime budget.
Our budget was rolled out yesterday. That is the Kenya Kwanza first budget. And we want to be held to account.
This as Kalonzo poked holes into the Kenya Kwanza maiden budget. Plus, school lessons to end at 3:45 p.m. CS Ezekiel Machogu directs school heads to adhere to the directive. Welcome to the Bulletin. This is FriDate. Catherine Simalo is on the sign language docket. I'm yours truly, Stanley Mirungita. You can always talk to us on our social platforms. In the tail end of the Bulletin, we'll be cracking the ribs, basically, with... Months after shifting the blame of unmet pledges of the Kenya Kwanza manifesto to the empty coffers in the Jubilee administration's budget, the second in command has seemingly shifted tact in his new call for accountability based on the maiden 3.68 trillion budget presented Thursday to the National Assembly.
You know, some people have been poking holes in our agenda in matters economy and budget, and it's because we are ignorant. Since we came to office on 13th of September, the budget that we were utilizing was not ours, and hence we take no responsibility for its shortcomings or otherwise.
Speaking Friday while he closed the Kenya Urban Forum in Naivasha, Nakuru County, DP Rigathi Gachagua continued to drum up support for the affordable housing scheme, where he faulted the opposition faction in what he termed as denying Kenyans an urban status, a move that has been lauded by Nakuru County boss Susan Kihika.
A character who was a leader there for 20 years and did nothing about slum upgrading is shouting from the rooftop that we shouldn't do housing. And he was there. He saw the squalor, the shame of people using flying toilets, people living in abject poverty, total indignity. And we have a program now to dignify those people.
Here in Nakuru County, we are excited to have a few of those having begun and some rolling out in the next financial year, because we too, as Nakuru County, believe that our citizens should be able to live in affordable housing and get decent housing while at it with sanitation.
In a retaliatory tone, Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has warned that Kenyans may be forced to hit the streets, raise their hue and cry due to the proposed tax measures in the budget.
Bado wa Kenya tuko kwa mahadaki. Tuko mahadakini. Kwanza unajua mimi nilipigwa tear gas. Nikapigwa tear gas tukisema hali ya maisha imeenda juu zaidi. Na sijui kama walisikiliza. Pengine wengine watapigwa tear gas, sio mimi. Inaonekana itakuwa raia sasa.
Tonight, 28 members of parliament from the Orange Democratic Movement, ODM party, have been summoned by the party leadership. The MPs are accused of defying the party's position on the Finance Bill 2023. This comes as ODM party chairman and nominated MP John Mbadi threatened to move to court to have the Finance Bill 2023 annulled over what he termed as illegalities in its processing. Now, according to Mbadi, the government's revenue-raising measures should be approved by Parliament. After the budget highlights have been presented, insisting the bill should be withdrawn and presented afresh. Here is Elizabeth Mutuku with the details.
Just 2 days after the Finance Bill 2023 was passed in National Assembly, in the second reading stage, uproar continues within the Azimio Brigade, with ODM summoning 28 MPs to explain why they were absent in the House during the voting process, as well as those who voted yes, they seemingly defying the party position. In his letter, ODM Secretary General says the party is in receipt of a complaint regarding your conduct in the Chamber of National Assembly on 14th June 2023 during the voting on the Finance Bill 2023, whose particulars are within your knowledge. Your said conduct was a betrayal of the trust bestowed upon you by the party and, more importantly, by the people who elected you, and in open violation of the stated position of the party and the Azimio coalition on the matter. By this letter, you are here given notice to show cause in writing within 48 hours as why discipline action should not be taken against you.
Bring the justification for being absent. And once that is done, we will see those who are just rebellious, who didn't want to appear in the House, those who voted for the bill and for the purported bill, yet the party had already taken a stand. So that the party will deal with.
This continues to raise temperatures within the political class, ODM party faulting the Kenya Kwanza government for contravening the Public Finance Management Act after presenting the Finance Bill 2023 in Parliament on Wednesday. ODM chairperson John Badi, a nominated member, questioned why Kenya Kwanza was in a hurry to pass the bill, yet they have numbers in both houses.
Exactly whether they raised this concern in the House Business Committee, and how come this matter was let to go. If I was present here on Wednesday, I would personally have refused that we don't participate in voting, because that was not a finance bill. What we were voting for, I still am looking for a word for it. I'm still looking for a description for what members spend so much time, so many hours voting on. I don't know what it was. This where the yes had 176 members and the nays have 81. And I've been told I was absent. Absent from what? What were we voting on?
Further, Badi now wants the proposed finance bill, which sailed through the second reading in Parliament on Wednesday, withdrawn. Azimio MPs faulted the Speaker for invoking Standing Order 95 on ending debate, thus allowing voting, as well as intentionally misleading the members on voting dates.
Or I indict the House Business Committee as a body. That there was negligence on their part, that they have treated Kenyans to some suckers, and that Kenyans' time has been wasted. Look, remember, on Wednesday, the whole day, I was not around here, but I observed that the whole day, the National Assembly of Kenya discussed an illegality, discussed a document that cannot pass for finance bill.
And suggested, including in consultation, that the voting would come next week on Tuesday.
Exactly.
For that reason, it is inconceivable that a member could stand under Standing Order 95 and the Speaker accedes to stop debate and go to the voting. That is the irregularity that our leader of minority is talking about. It is improper to mislead members of parliament, to mislead the media, and to mislead the nation. And that is part of the issue we have with this whole procedures.
Azimio MPs on Thursday walked out on Ndungu as he tabled the 2023-2024 budget highlights. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Nairobi.
And from the politics in the budget into the big numbers in this particular budget, and just how does President William Ruto's government intend to finance the deficit in this year's budget? The government will borrow at least 718 billion shillings in the financial year starting July 1st, 2023, even as Kenya faces a heavy debt service burden during the year. Tonight, we dissect through Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndungu's maiden speech while reading the budget highlights highlights and the government projections to raise the much-needed revenue.
Of cost-sharing digital platform to enable.
In what has been described as perhaps one of the longest speeches by the country's custodian of Treasury, Professor Njuguna Ndung'u, will for 3 hours and 18 minutes read 2024 financial year, which begins in July this year, will see Kenyans adapt to more taxation. But several important questions lingered, that of funding the deficit and proposals to fix the gap, as well as the disparities between development and recurrent expenditure. The development budget stands at 718.9 billion shillings out of the 3.68 trillion shillings total. That means a huge amount will go to recurrent expenditure. According to an optimistic CS Njuguna Ndung'u, however, that gap will be sealed soon. The CS also noted that a large number of state corporations rely on Treasury to pay for salaries and other expenses, even as bloated payrolls remain a big burden to Treasury, as has been the case over the years, resulting in cumulated unserviced statutory obligations. What is his proposed solution?
To address this challenge, the State Corporations Advisory Committee, SCAC, will immediately embark on an aggressive program to rationalize staff establishment to keep them lean and strictly adhere to 70-30 ratio of technical staff to support staff. In addition, the National Treasury shall henceforth only approve budgets for hiring staff for only state corporations that have received approvals from the State Corporations Advisory Committee, the Public Service Commission, PSV, and Salary and Remuneration Committee together jointly.
From his speech, it is clear that Kenyans should tighten the belts as the government seeks to source funds locally. According to the CS, the government fiscal policy for 2023-2024 financial year and medium-term budget aims to ensure debt sustainability. This, he says, will be achieved through improved revenue collection, largely by broadening the tax base and controlling overall expenditure, while prioritizing high-impact social and investment expenditure.
The fiscal policy targets to grow total revenues to 17.9% of GDP in financial year 2023-2024 and above 18.3% of GDP over the medium term. As part of the economic turnaround plan, the government will scale up revenue collection efforts by the Kenya Revenue Authority, KRA, to a target of Kenya shillings 4.0 trillion over the medium term. In order to achieve this, the government is undertaking a combination of both tax administrative measures and tax policy reforms.
Planning is one thing, and making the plans turn to be a reality becomes another. So as per the budget, of course, there are serious targets, as we have said, especially in terms of revenue collection. And these targets, again, if you look at the tax proposals which were given, look at the economy and see, is this economy strong enough to be able to raise the kind of revenue targets that we are giving KRA? So I think, like I've said, putting policies and putting the plans is one thing, but how practical these targets are going to be is something else.
Further, the government projects to raise 2.96 trillion shillings in total revenues and spend 3.7 trillion shillings during the 2020s. The depreciation of the currency against major currencies and the rise of interest rates have elevated the cost of debt service. He further says that although the debt burden has risen, Kenya has not accumulated debt service arrears. While the current debt limit as approved in the year 2020 by Parliament remains 10 trillion shillings, this government will reconsider the debt ceiling.
Guided by the best practice, the government intends to change the public debt ceiling from a numerical number to a debt anchor in the form of a ratio of public debt to GDP in present value terms. The proposed change to the debt ceiling provides an appropriate guide for optimal level of public debt based on the country's ability to pay.
There could be possibility that it can open up some loopholes, especially if at all maybe, for example, we play around with the GDP figures, or maybe and again, one other thing is that at times it's not very clear to get precisely what are the really figures for the government debt. So it can really open up, can really open some loopholes. I think the argument from the CS was like, if you give, for example, we say 60% of the GDP is our debt anchor, then should we exceed maybe to around 65%, then we can only say as a country.
For a country still reeling from the adverse effects of the COVID-19 pandemic and the war in Eastern Europe, Kenyans can only hope that things will turn for the better if the promises and the budget presented by the new dispensation are anything to go by. And to some stellar news, TV